Beyond the Red House, where we turn trauma into triumph and pain into purpose. I'm Kayla Volturno, author of I Was Once the Girl in the Red House, and I believe in the power of authentic healing stories. This is a space where your voice matters, your story heals, and your journey inspires others to break their own cycles. Whether you're just beginning your healing or years into building your new life, you belong here. Let's explore what it means to move beyond the red houses that hurt us and build the lives we actually deserve. Welcome back to Beyond the Red House. I'm Kayla, and today I wanted to start off a little differently than usual. I'm not going to tell you what today's topic is right away. Instead, I want you to listen to a few questions, really think about them, and then I'll reveal what they all mean, which of course means that's our topic. So here we go. Just listen and really be honest with yourself. Does saying no to someone give you instant hives? Like, does your stomach drop when you think about turning someone down? Do you frequently overcommit to plans, responsibilities, or favors for others? Saying yes to helping someone move when you already have 3 other things to do that day. And how about this one? Do you apologize frequently often for things that are not even your fault? Maybe apologizing when someone bumps into you, or saying I'm sorry before asking a simple question. If you said yes to any of these questions, or if you felt called out by them, then you are more than likely a people pleaser. And before you think, okay, so what? That's not a big deal. I want you to stick with me here. As someone who's been a people pleaser for most of my life, I understand what it feels like. I understand that constant need for approval, that fear of disappointing someone, that exhaustion from always putting everyone else first. And today we're going to dive deep into people pleasing. We're going to talk about why we do it, where it comes from, the toll it takes on us, and more importantly, how can we start to break free from it? So let's start with the basics. What is people pleasing really? On the surface, it might seem like being kind, being helpful, being a good friend or family member. And don't get me wrong, those things are important, but people pleasing goes beyond that. It's when you consistently put other people's needs, wants, and feelings above your own, to the point where you lose sight of what you actually want or need. It's saying yes when you mean no. It's staying quiet when something bothers you because you don't want to rock the boat. It's changing your plans, your opinions, or even your personality to make others comfortable or happy. How many times have you had plans to finally have a quiet weekend to yourself when you're exhausted or burnt out and you really needed that time to recharge? But then a friend or family member calls and asks if you could help them with something that weekend, and without thinking, without even checking in on yourself on what you needed, you say yes. You canceled the rest, showed up for them, and spent the entire weekend feeling more exhausted. That's people pleasing. It's not generosity. It's not kindness. It's self-abandonment. So how do we become people pleasers? Because it's not like we're born this way, right? Babies have no problem crying when they need something or rejecting food they don't like. I recently read this interesting article on Psych Central, and I'll link it down in the show notes because it's definitely worth reading. It breaks down some common factors that contribute to people-pleasing behavior. And the first major factor is, of course, trauma. Now, when people hear the word trauma, they think of the most extreme experiences. But trauma can also include things like growing up in an unpredictable household, experiencing emotional neglect, or being in relationships where your needs weren't valued. And you've probably heard of fight or flight, right? Those are the 2 common trauma responses. But there's another one called fawning. And this is one that's directly connected to people pleasing. And fawning is when you try to please others to settle conflicts and maintain their approval. It's a survival mechanism, and if you've grown up in an environment where keeping the peace meant staying safe, emotionally or otherwise, then fawning becomes automatic. You learn that making other people happy equals safety. And I get this on such a deep level. I still to this day feel extreme anxiety when I know someone is upset or mad at me. My brain automatically goes into fix-it mode. It doesn't matter if I did anything wrong. That discomfort, that fear of disapproval, is so overwhelming that I would do anything to make it go away. And another factor that the article mentioned is emotional dependence. And this happens when someone has unmet psychological needs and they try to satisfy those through their relationships with others. So if you didn't get enough validation, love, or approval growing up, you might seek it out now by constantly trying to please others, hoping that if you're good enough, helpful enough, nice enough, that you'll finally get that acceptance you've been craving. It's like we're all walking around trying to fill a cup that has a hole in the bottom. No matter how much approval we get from others, it'll never feel like enough because the real issue is internal. Now let's talk about what people-pleasing actually costs us, because it's not harmless. It might feel like you're just being too nice, but over time, people-pleasing takes a serious toll. First, there's the physical toll. Constantly saying yes when you really want to say no, and constantly pushing down your own feelings and needs, it creates stress. And chronic stress affects everything. Your sleep, your energy, your immune system, even your digestion system. Your body is literally keeping score. And then there's the emotional and mental toll. When you're always focused on what others think, feel, or need, you could lose touch with yourself. You could start to feel empty, resentful, anxious, maybe even depressed. You might not know what you like anymore because you've spent so much time molding yourself to fit what others want. I went through a phase where if someone asked me what kind of food I wanted, I genuinely couldn't answer. I had gotten so used to just going along with what everyone else wanted that I completely lost touch with what I wanted. And I was scared to say what I wanted because what if they didn't want that? And then there's a relationship toll. You'd think that people-pleasing would make your relationships better, right? But it does the opposite. Because you're not being authentic, when you're not expressing your real thoughts, feelings, people don't really know you. They know the version of you that's trying to be the people pleaser. And that's not real connection. So you'll end up attracting people who are okay with taking and not giving back. Because if you're always saying yes and always accommodating, always apologizing, you're essentially training people that your needs don't matter. So let's get practical for a minute. How do you know if you're a people pleaser beyond those questions I asked in the beginning? Well, here's some other signs. You might have a hard time making decisions, especially when you don't want to disappoint someone. You want to see what everyone else wants first. You could feel responsible for other people's emotions. If someone's upset, you feel like it's your job to fix it. You avoid conflict at all cost, even standing up for yourself when it's the healthy thing to do. You say yes immediately without taking time to think about whether or not you want to do something. You feel guilty when you do things for yourself, like that's selfish somehow. Maybe you have a hard time identifying your own needs because you're so focused on everyone else's. If any of those resonated with you, you're not alone and you're definitely not broken. You're just stuck in a pattern, and patterns are meant to be changed. Okay, so this is the part you've been waiting for. How do I change this? How do we stop people pleasing? First, I want to say that if this is something you're really struggling with, working with a therapist or mental health professional can be incredibly helpful. They could help you understand where these patterns come from and guide you through the process of changing them. And there is no shame in getting support. But there's also things you could do right now, today, that will help. The first tip is to reflect on your own desires, wants, and needs rather than focusing on what other people want. That sounds simple, but it's actually really hard when you're out of practice. Start small. When someone says, "What do you want for dinner?" Actually think about it. What do you want? Not what would be the easiest, not what would make them happy. What do you want? You could also practice this in a low stakes situation. What do you want to watch on TV? What do you want to do this weekend? What kind of coffee do you actually like? Reconnect with yourself. And the second tip is to learn to set limits with others about what you will and will not tolerate. This is about boundaries. Boundaries are essential. And a boundary is not about controlling other people. It's about deciding what's okay and what's not okay for you, and then communicating that. For example, if you decide you're not available to talk on the phone after, let's say, 8 p.m., because that's your time to yourself, then that's a boundary. Or maybe you decide that you're not going to be the person who always plans everything for your friends. That's another boundary. Setting boundaries will feel uncomfortable at first, especially if people are used to you not having any. But that discomfort is growth. And the third tip, say yes to things you actually want to do. Notice how I didn't say to say no to everything. This isn't about becoming selfish or closed off. It's about becoming intentional. Saying yes when something genuinely makes you happy and when it aligns with your values, when you actually have the mental capacity for it. Of course, say yes from desire, not obligation. And the fourth tip is to decline invitations to engage in harmful behaviors. And this one's important. If someone's asking you to do something that doesn't feel right, something that violates your values or makes you feel uncomfortable, you can say no. You don't have to explain yourself or justify it. A simple, that doesn't work for me, is enough. And the fifth one is to speak up when something is bothering you. And this is huge. It took me a long time to do this. People pleasers tend to stay quiet when something hurts or bothers them because they don't want to cause problems. But staying quiet doesn't make the problem go away. It just means you're now carrying it alone. You can express your feelings kindly and respectfully. You can say, hey, that hurt my feelings, or I'm not comfortable with this situation. You're allowed to have feelings and to express them. And my final tip is to find things you enjoy. This might seem random, but it's actually so important. Having hobbies that are just for you, that you do because it brings you joy, is a form of self-care. It's a way of saying my happiness matters too. My interests matter. Whether it's painting, reading, hiking, cooking, baking, whatever it is, make time for you. I want to be real with you. Breaking free from people-pleasing is not a one-and-done thing. It's a journey. There will be days where you slip back into old patterns, and there will be times when saying no feels impossible. There will be moments when you feel guilty for putting yourself first, because that's how we've been conditioned, right? We're not supposed to put ourselves first, but really, you need to put yourself first. But I've also learned that every time you honor yourself and every time you choose authenticity over approval, you're building a new pattern. You're teaching yourself that you matter. You're proving to yourself that you can handle other people's disappointments. You're creating a life that's actually yours and one that you want it to be. And the beautiful thing is when you do stop people pleasing, you make room for real, genuine relationships. You make room for people who love the real you, not the version of you that's constantly performing. And you make room for your own dreams, your own voice, and your own life. It's worth it, and you are worth it. If you are a people pleaser, I see you. I know how hard it is, but I also know that change is possible. I never thought that I would be able to stick up for myself and figure out what I truly wanted with my life. And now I feel stronger in the long run because I know what I want to do and what I don't want to do. Of course, there's times with your family that you're going to have to do things, or there's times where you still want to be that good friend and you're like, okay, I'll do this weekend, but maybe next weekend is my time off. Or you could say, okay, you need help moving? Sure, I'll help you Saturday, but Sunday I am not coming over. That is my day. I need to relax. So there's ways to still go about helping people without it completely derailing what you need. And I encourage you to check out that Psych Central article I mentioned. It goes into even more detail about the psychology beyond people pleasing. And of course, if you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who might need it. Leave a review, subscribe, all that stuff. It really helps the podcast grow. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, your needs matter, your voice matters, you matter. I'll see you next time on Beyond the Red House. Your healing matters. Your story matters. And you matter. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Red House. If you have a story to share or want to connect, email me at hello@kaylavolturno.com. Visit kaylavolturno.com for my book and resources to support your healing journey. Everything will be in the show notes. Keep building beyond whatever tried to break you. You are stronger than you know. This is Beyond the Red House.